What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Faithful Fanatic Show live here right on DSM-Media's Philadelphia YouTube channel. Guys, first and foremost, if you are new to the channel, if you like the content, if you want to be interactive throughout this morning's show, make sure to support by smashing that subscribe button. It's the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here on the screen with your host. I am one half of them this morning, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. Sixers rolling, Joel Embiid in MVP form. Do we take him for granted, Scotty? We've had this discussion before, but we're going to bring it back up again. Eagles, who can step up for them the most? Who can get them right? And how can they get rolling in the final 4 weeks heading into the postseason? That and much, much more. Whatever you guys want to talk about, throw your comments, throw your questions, throw your topics into the comment section, and we can get to anything you guys want today on this fun Friday. But my man, happy Friday, and how are you feeling?
Happy Friday, my man. I'm feeling good. We're at the end of the work week, and that's that's all I can ask for amongst this week with how busy it's been. But nonetheless, happy to be here with you. Obviously, some good stuff to talk about with the Sixers and what's going on there. And then, of course, the Eagles and how do they get back on track? Who needs to step up there? So all fun conversations today. It's Fun Friday. We didn't have a ton of locked in topics today just because there's just not a ton of stuff going on right now. You got the Sixers playing this F level of competition right now this month. So there's not a ton of heat there, although we are getting some great performances from them. And the Eagles, right? Like, we can only talk about what has gone wrong, what is wrong with this team. We can only talk about that so much with 2 losses in a row. And I think we kind of moved past that when you're so used to winning all the time, especially these last 2 seasons. It's hard to talk about why you're losing. And at a certain point, it becomes pointless because we need to move on to the next week. So
not just that, I was thinking about it earlier, man. It's one of my fears doing this because you want to say what's on your mind. You want to be honest about your thoughts and your criticisms of this team, but you believe in this team so much. You believe in the quarterback so much that you're just hoping and assuming they're going to turn things around. So when they lose 2 straight, yes, we critique them. Yes, I was going off on Wednesday morning, but I also don't want to push the line too far with how I'm feeling. Because once that team proves you wrong in a sense, but right in a sense in your belief, it feels like, now I have to backtrack what I said. So it's like, it's like towing the line of, how you feel in the moment versus not taking it too far. Right. So that's one of the issues.
You have to stay within the moment, right? We can't get out of control here with the way we're looking at these 2 losses out of 3 on the season, as far as, 13 games into the season. So, I completely agree, man. I think you just have to kind of take a step back, and that's why we didn't do the show Monday, because we would come in Monday infuriated about that loss to the Cowboys, and then you come in and you say some things that maybe you end up regretting because it's a long season. There's still a chance for the Eagles to really turn it on and get hot going into the postseason. So that's what I'm looking forward to. But we'll be able to break it down.
Hype him up today, my man. Hype him up today. Dude is on a roll. Marshall Lynch. This team has not pushed the line good enough in the trenches. Man. You're not wrong, my man. You're not wrong, my man. In other news, something else we were talking about, what we can get into today. The Phillies were apparently meeting with Yamamoto yesterday.
That meeting never ended.
News. Never got an update on that from John Heyman. And secondly, all the kind of things I was seeing, all the rumors I was seeing floating around, wasn't so much that it was a meeting. I don't know, a true meeting on convincing Yamamoto to come here. More so from Yamamoto's side, it would drive up asking prices from the Yankees and other teams. And from a Phillies side, it allows future, Dominican and foreign players and Japanese players that they're interested, right, moving forward, and to take them seriously when it comes to bidding for them, right? So I didn't see really anything that supported the thought or idea that Yamamoto and the Phillies are seriously considering each other, but you never know. That's all just pure speculation from people not in the circles and not too involved.
Like Marshawn Lynch said right here, for all we know, according to reports, so Tani's headed to Toronto. So
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't believe those first glance reports. You don't believe it until you actually see
That
it.
is an outside Philly conversation we can wrap the show up with is Ohtani's deal, because we have not discussed it at all.
Yeah,
And the decision to defer 68 per year over the second 10 years.
they
We
said
could talk about
screw
all that
next
because
generation Dodgers
yeah,
baseball. We're gonna go all
we
in
can
this
get into that.
generation.
It's definitely cool in the now.
Interesting. Yeah,
10 years from now, it might not be such a hot topic out in LA, man.
yeah, your kids may not get the enjoyment that you guys get out of Dodgers baseball, but
Bryce doing a lot, man.
get some
Bryce is
rings.
at Flyers games in all different cities.
Yeah, he's doing
He's
a lot of showcases, right? Showing
yeah,
his face in a lot of
narrating
places.
some Eagles intros, so he's doing a lot for the city and
Gotta
for
love
these
it.
teams, man. But nonetheless, where do you want to start, Scotty, on this Friday morning? You want to start Eagles? You want to start Sixers?
Let's start with the positive conversation.
All
Let's
right,
start
I
there.
like it. I like
Yeah.
it. Start with the happy Friday topic, right? And
Yeah,
that is
exactly.
that the Philadelphia 76ers are going for 5 straight wins tonight. Yes, I know who they've played recently. Yes, I understand that they could potentially be 2 of the bottom 3 or 4 teams in the league that they've played that they're about to play 4 out of their last 5 games against, but that does not matter, Scotty,
It
because
doesn't
you know what the
matter,
Sixers
man.
are doing over the course of this stretch? They're handling these 2 teams
Yeah.
the exact way you would expect a championship contender to handle these 2 teams. And not to mention, I think if you guys want to go back and check on who the Sixers open up the first 2 months of the regular season against, I think this little delay in the schedule is okay. All right, since they had to go through kind of an early season gauntlet to open up, but nonetheless, they obviously sit here 16-7 on the year. Joel Embiid just continues to do Joel Embiid things, man. His points per game are up, his rebounds are up, his assists are up, his minutes are down, Scotty, and it's getting to a point where you watch him night to night, and if he doesn't score 30 plus, it's like, man, Embiid had an off night. And this is where I want to start the conversation of us taking him for granted, and not taking him for granted in terms of when we get on him when he's bad and you just have to live with the ups and downs. What I mean is he's such a generational talent. You add in the size and the strength and the footwork and the shooting touch and everything like that at a guy at his size. But someone posted Kawhi Leonard's stats over his last 5 games, and it was like 28.6 points per game, blah, 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 5.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, da, da, da. And they were like, man, Kawhi's on fire. And it made me sit back and look at it, and I was like, dude, if Joel was averaging 28 per game, we would be like, man, that's a rough stretch. Do you get what I'm saying? You're talking about, I know Kawhi hasn't played like one of the best players, one of the stars of the league this year. Kawhi Leonard's still a star in this league, correct?
Yeah.
You're talking about one of the faces of the league, an NBA champion, averaging 28, and it's this big ordeal. But if our dude averages 28, we're like, man, something's going on. That's how much we expect of him, but that's how great he is, Scotty. This dude's not even playing fourth quarters.
Yeah.
Because he's dropping 30 in the first half and putting his team up by 27. It's unbelievable, man.
Yeah, I actually had this conversation with Zach Noble yesterday on my show, and it's always interesting hearing like an outside perspective from Philadelphia fans and what they think of Embiid and the Sixers and the whole debacle that has been the Sixers the last couple of years. But it got to the point in the conversation, like you just said, man, where you just have to actually sit back and acknowledge and appreciate what Embiid is doing. Because right now this stuff is just it's unbelievable, some of the stuff he does. And we also had a conversation, for example, about Giannis and his 64-point game the other night, and how that was like kind of one of the most unimpressive,
boring 64
50 point performances that you'll ever really see in basketball. When a guy goes to the free throw line 32 times, and it's just funny how these conversations get narrated, depending on the
when
player.
It comes to
But I would say if Embiid shot 32 free throws and scored 60 points, that would probably be a pretty boring, ugly basketball game. But nonetheless, the reason I bring that up is because Embiid is doing this and he's playing beautiful basketball on top of it. It's not just the production and the efficiency that's coming out of it. It's
Yeah.
not just the numbers that are coming out of it, but it's what you're seeing on the court and what is pleasant to the eye for somebody who truly enjoys the game of basketball and sharing the ball and seeing the ball move around. Embiid has now added like another facet to his game where he now can get his 35 points within the offense. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
one-on-one. He can just catch a pass at the mid-range and shoot it, right? He can get in the paint, get offensive rebounds, and score it. And that's the difference this year for me. It seems like he's playing – it feels like he's playing with more fun, if
I
that makes
was
sense. The
I
whole
was
team
just
is
about to
having
bring this up to you.
way more fun, but it feels like he's having more fun. And I think that's a big proponent in this whole this whole
Yeah.
conversation
I
because
know that sounds silly when you're
coming into
talking
the season,
about
it was Embiid was going to one out,
yeah.
right? He's going to demand a trade to the New York fucking Knicks. Like, okay, but
Yeah.
aside from that, they're having a lot more fun, man. I do think that's the
I
case.
was just going to bring this
That's
up
what
to you.
makes
It's a
it better.
fantastic point, man, because I know how ridiculous it sounds
Yeah.
to talk about a man worth $300 million, $200 million, an MVP of the league at this level. Was you having fun? I know it sounds corny.
Yeah.
It matters with
It
this
does
dude.
matter, though.
When you talk about past, I don't know, laziness,
I
or
know
you
what you
just
mean,
when
yeah.
you see him mentally check out
The
of a game and experience
demonstrative,
to
the mood
physically check.
swings. Yeah.
Yes. And when you get that talent and that dominance mixed with a smile and a dancing and a win, it's going to play a difference with this team and this dude's mental on the floor, man. The question I had after last year was he wins the MVP, he leads the league in scoring again, he was so dominant, and it wasn't enough to even get to the Eastern Conference Finals. And the question that occurs is, man, if he was this good and you had no chance of winning a title this year, what's going to be enough, right? And when are you going to start to get the 30-plus-year-old injury battered Joel Embiid that starts to hit us a little bit of a decline? He's better. He's better than he was last year in his MVP. It's not the numbers. That's not what I'm pointing to. Obviously, it's the numbers, right? But it's not just that.
Part of it.
He's shooting the ball better from the mid-range and from that's just something you never would think would happen with a 7'1" center in that shape. He already shoots the ball Kobe Bryant, Kevin Durant-esque when you compare all the moves and the footwork, and he shouldn't be able to do it. And now it's like there's even more touch to the jumper. There's even more confidence when he pulls up in the mid-range with a hand in his face. It's knockdown, dude. It really is. The two-man game he has going with really anybody. Like, he runs it with Tyrese, obviously, but he runs it with a couple different guys on this team, and Kelly here and there, and
Patrick Beverly.
It creates openings for either the guard or him to pick and pop, and he's unbelievable, dude. I think
he's just mastering the game, man. Go ahead.
What I want to say to Doc B is this is why we unleash when he scores 20 against Boston. Because right now, Joel Embiid's the best player on the planet.
Yeah.
He is the best player on planet Earth right now today, this season. So when he does struggle against that team, we talk like the Eagles, you lose to that team, it's that team that frustrates me. But he is an unbelievable watch each and every single night, man. And what are you going to tell me? You're going to tell me it's the Pistons, and you're going to tell me it's the Wizards? He's not playing the fourth quarter of any of these games.
Yeah. I honestly think where we're coming from right now in the show right now, appreciating everything within the moment, game by game in this 82-game season, I think that's appropriate. And I do think that what Marshawn Lynch is saying here is appropriate as well. I think both sides of this conversation is fine. Like, it's fine to say he's dominating right now, but I want to see it against Boston and Milwaukee and Minnesota and the best teams in the NBA. That's fine. But what I think we're getting at here, Marshawn, is that when I look back on Sixers basketball, after the Embiid era, I don't want to look back and like have a product in front of me that is not even close to Embiid, or not. There's no player on the team that's even close to the greatness of Embiid. And then I have to sit back there and say, man, I wish I could watch Embiid right now.
Yep.
I just want to enjoy it in the
Yep.
moment. I want to enjoy each and every one of these master classes that we see throughout the season, because there will be a time in Sixers basketball, which we have seen,
not there.
that he will not be there, or a player of that caliber.
I mean, Scotty, look at the
best basketball
gap
I've seen for the Sixers in my lifetime. Like,
right.
even with Allen Iverson, like, this is the best. Allen Iverson was a guy that shot a lot of shots. Like, he was a sometimes called a jack. Joel Embiid is playing efficient, sharing the basketball.
Oh, absolutely. Joel, I said this to you from an overall talent perspective. Yeah. Joel Embiid might be the most talented 76er to ever go down. More talented than Allen Iverson.
And AI, I think the other side of AI is AI's effort as well. So some people may call him a jack, but his effort, he's diving on the floor. He's
also two different completely ends of the spectrum, right? One's a 7'1" center. One's a 6-footer point guard, small in the league, taking contact to get guy, right? My point is, is he as great as Joel? No, right? We don't believe, but he was that last person when you talk about the greatness on the floor. Well, think about that gap in years between the end of Allen Iverson to the beginning of Joel Embiid.
It's a long time.
You want to go through another gap like that?
Andre Iguodala, it was fun, but it wasn't even close, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of the median, right? He was
there with
borderline AI, and all right. He was an all-star one year, maybe.
The process,
sure, right?
No.
What's the name though? I do wholeheartedly agree with you. And if you look back on this season and last season, Joel shows up in big moments. He's had moments against Boston. He's had moments against the Bucks and the other teams, right? He's beaten OKC this year. He beat the dog shit out of the Lakers this year. They beat the Suns this year. Last year, what he did to Jokic in Philly in that game, he shows up against all these teams, but it's so eerily similar to the Eagles.
Yeah.
When they beat the AFC teams. Yeah. Those are great wins. Those are great performances against great opponents and great teams, but it's not those two teams in your way on the road to getting there. That's where it becomes similar when you're talking about Boston and Milwaukee. But I'm going to be honest, man. Milwaukee don't scare me fucking percent.
Yeah.
I want that matchup so badly
at some point, but I feel you. What I've seen so far has not been
so badly. Well, especially when you're comparing Boston and Milwaukee, who would you rather get? It's not even close. Before it used to be close, right? Before it was like, who do you want to play, Giannis or this? No, it's not close.
No, it isn't. It isn't. I would much rather play Milwaukee than Boston, quite honestly, just because I do think. Having Embiid protect the paint, I think that does make a huge difference when you're playing against a guy like Giannis. But, it just leads us to the conversation, man, of, looking at Embiid's greatness in this moment. Does this team have enough to go out and compete for a championship right now? And I think that's the question. Something that Zach Noble said to me yesterday on the pod on Scotty Talks NBA really hit a mark for me, because I know I've been complaining about Rocco and his minutes kind of deteriorating as Marcus Morris minutes go up. But something he said kind of hit a note, and it's just a big if. But if Marcus Morris can get back to himself, Marcus Morris at his highest potential is better than Rocco at his highest potential, right? He presents a better scoring threat. He presents similar defensive, right? Rocco's a better defender.
He also presents a better trade prospect, right? If we're being honest. Just saying. I'm not saying I'm not pushing the envelope to trade Marcus Morris if he's playing well. I'm just saying when it gets to that time and teams, you got to put together a little package for whatever Daryl wants. You got to showcase the goods. And
Absolutely, man. That being said, obviously today marks the day where Nico Batum, Robert Covington, KJ Martin, Marcus Morris are all now eligible to be traded again.
Mhm.
So now the Sixers can officially look to
Right.
move
Flip those
1,
assets
2,
if they
yeah,
wanted to.
whatever those assets, whatever Daryl Morey ends up wanting to move in this case. Um, Before we talk about that, because I want to ask you, out of
Mhm.
those, you have what, four
4 or 5.
four guys there, and I'm
4.
going to throw Tobias into that bunch and order those guys in the way we would like to see them shipped out. Like, not to say you want all 5 shipped out,
Yeah,
but
no,
in an order
absolutely.
of who you would be willing to give up out of those 5 in a trade.
Sure.
But I wanted to talk about this guy on Detroit from the other night, man. It brought me back because he was a guy we talked about last year, but Bogdanovich, man, dropped
Yeah.
33 on us, 5 for
Yeah.
9 from the 3-point line. There's part of me that does feel like if you just did like a Tobias for Bogdanovich, like
Yeah.
just clean swap, like that would be
It
maybe
works.
perfect. But just wanted to throw that in there. But looking at Batum, Rocco, KJ Martin, Marcus Morris, Tobias Harris, I think DeAnthony Melton has removed himself from that conversation. I don't know about
Yeah, I
you.
think D-Mout's become a little too important to this team.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he
Absolutely.
fits a little too well right now. So out of those 5, which one would you be most willing, or let me phrase that better. Which one of these pieces do you think would be worth the most that you would be willing to let go?
Um, I
I
mean,
know
I
that's a
think
weird
Tobias is
question.
still worth the most, right? Even though it's you talk about the money over the last couple years, it's an expiring deal at that point. You have a couple months
Yeah.
left on it. So he's the best player of the 4 or 5, right? Like, let's
Yeah.
not get that
Yeah.
twisted. He is the best player of them guys. It's an expiring deal. Tobias Harris, he's the best scorer, right? Tobias Harris would be
Yeah.
the most sought after guy there. And
Are you
it's
sold on moving Tobias Harris? Let's just ask
no,
that question straight up.
no.
Like,
I
do
mean,
you have to?
I have a couple more toes out the door than I did after the first month of the season when he was on fire, shooting 60%. Then I was like, man, you keep this team how it is. You see the ups and downs, and it does make you question, even if he bounces back over the next month and looks great, you're still waiting for that other shoe to drop where he goes down in the dumps again. And if
Yeah.
you get that version of Tobias Harris come playoff time, you have an issue, right? So it's like, if you can move him for a Bogdanovich, if you can move him for, we could talk about Zach LaVine another day. He's obviously injured right now, but
Yeah.
I'm more willing than I was before, but I'm not like completely
Like,
110%.
get
Like,
him
you
the hell
have to
out of
get this
here.
done to be
Yeah.
better, blah blah blah. I'll tell you this though, Tobias is the second most valuable piece that I don't want to move out of those guys. Nick Batum is the guy I'm not moving. I
Yeah.
know that sounds outrageous.
Yeah.
I am not moving Nico Batum. Why? Because none of the guys you're trading for that you'd have to put a package together for are worthy enough of this outrageous package where, let's just say, for instance, 2 years ago when it was for Harden, or a
It's not
year
gonna
ago
be
when it was for
Batum
Dame, and it was worth
alone.
it. Yeah, you wouldn't be sitting here saying, oh, Batum can't stop, this trade. You have to put him in. Duh.
Yeah.
If it's for Levine, even an OG, which I don't think is happening,
Yeah.
there's not a package where you're adding him to it. Like, kick rocks at that point. I'm not
Yeah.
doing it. He
Yeah.
is the perfect glue piece. He's knocked down from the wings and corners. He plays defense. He's a leader on this team. You do not move Nico Batum. If I had to order these guys for you, Scotty, Batum is basically unmovable right now. Basically, unless like a star became available at the deadline and
Yeah,
he was put in a
like, I
package.
think this would be a case, like, if Mikal Bridges is
Absolutely.
somehow available, right? Like, somehow the Nets are willing to trade Mikal
Yeah.
Bridges to the Sixers, but they have to get Batum back. I'll do that. Like, yeah, of course, if it makes sense. But I do agree. I think Batum, for me as well, would be number one on that list
Yeah.
as well. Like, not
Yeah.
wanting to let that guy move.
Absolutely. Tobias is too. The talent, like, I'm just not doing it. The leadership he brings for this team, I'm not doing it. Three would be Marcus Morris. To your point, I think when both 100%, both playing good basketball, Marcus Morris's A+ game is better than Robert Covington's A+ game. He can do more for you.
Yeah.
I like Marcus Morris in that aspect, especially scoring the ball. Then would come Rocco. Then would come KJ Martin. Duh. I mean, KJ Martin doesn't even get off the bench for the Sixers team unless it's in 40-point blowouts in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. He doesn't look comfortable. I don't know. Like,
Not
there
at
just
all.
doesn't seem like there's a place for him to get in here. So,
Yeah.
I agree. I would say he's like
No,
the
and I
one.
agree with Marshawn Lynch. Just I know it sounds absolutely berserk to sit here and talk about a role player we just
He's a
acquired a
glue
month
guy,
and a half
man.
ago this way. He's what we've been waiting for. Like
Yeah.
literally what we've been waiting for.
Yeah.
When they show that playoff matchup, Sixers Celtics, and they show the starting fives in those boxes, and you see Nico Batum dead in the middle of it, it calms you. It's going to calm you down a little bit. It's going to make you trust a little bit more than what we've had in the past, because he's just the perfect piece for this starting lineup. He really is. Like you said, Mikal Bridges is probably what? Nico Batum on steroids, right?
Exactly. Yeah. He
So,
presents the same things except better version, right?
right.
Like,
So if you can manage that, sure. But at the same time, are you better with Mikal Bridges or Tobias and Nico Batum in your starting
right.
lineup?
If you're giving up Tobias, Nico, and maybe you have to throw like Rocco in too.
Right.
And you get
I don't know. I don't know that I'm doing that. I don't know that I'm doing that.
A lot. And that's the thing. I think that's another thing we could talk about here is that, moving 2 to 3 guys again and, bringing in 2 other guys,
man.
like, it just feels like a lot of moving pieces when you look at a Denver team, you look at the
1000%.
Miami Heat teams that keep their cores together, the Celtics as well. They keep their cores together, and then boom, you see them in the finals or the conference finals again every year. So it's like there is a chemistry, there is a longevity, a tenure that goes along with how long these players are playing together and figuring each other out as well. So
I also think that I think Nick Nurse has started to figure it out, right? Because when acquiring all these pieces and then Kelly comes back from injury and you got legitimately 12 to 13 guys that could play for you, he's starting different rotations, doing different things for the first couple weeks. You've kind of seen Nick Nurse settle into a similar rotation night in and night out. Now that they're fully healthy, you go and flip the script again.
Yeah.
Now he's got to figure out a new everything for that system. So
how do you feel about this question? This is an interesting one.
I don't disagree. I don't, man. I think it's tough. It's tough because I think the way that I don't want to move either of them, because I think the way that DeAnthony Melton has grown into a 3-point shooting role on this team, he's literally shooting like 40% on the year, bro.
I think he's shooting better percentage than Tyrese Maxey, honestly.
At pretty high volume too, dude.
Yeah.
Like it's not like this dude's going 1 for 2, 2 for 3 every night. Like Melton chucks 5+ threes a night. So he gets them up there. He's shooting 40%. He obviously frustrates the hell out of me when he takes it 92 feet and then can't finish at the rim. But he's gotten better at that. He is athletic. He does play defense for this team. I think, if I'm being honest, I think D-Mel is a perfect complement to Maxey at the 2 guard. I think he can handle the ball a bit, but it's Maxey's ball. He can shoot off. He doesn't need the ball. He can catch and shoot. He can cut. He can dive. He can do a lot of different things. But
I do agree. I won't say that I agree or disagree with that statement.
Correct.
I think that maybe they're probably in the same plane for me. I would be reluctant. I think the one thing, the one thing that makes me say I can't agree or disagree is the thought that maybe, just maybe, D-Melt could be here next year. Like maybe they do give him some type of extension to keep him on the roster. And then once again, you continue that longevity together. But Batum is the same thing. I would love to have Batum back next year as well. It's just, is he going to retire? There's obviously rumors around that.
Do you know what I'm finding super exciting as this conversation's going along, right? We started it with the focal point, which is Joel. And we've added in all the role pieces, right? All the new additions, Batum, D-Melt, Tobias, blah, blah, blah. And they're all playing well. And we haven't really talked about Maxey, but we know what Maxey brings. We haven't even discussed Kelly Oubre Jr. since coming back from injury. I know. To start the year, this dude was the talking point of the Sixers team, averaging 20+ a game, ridiculous shooting, everything. It's just, again, is an attribute of their depth. Like, we're not even talking about their leading bench scorer and their biggest threat to score outside of Embiid and Maxey, most likely.
Yeah.
And he's just on the back burner for this conversation. It's crazy. That's kind of my question, man. When you
He's
get to the
not getting
deadline,
traded.
no, not at all. When you get to the deadline, can you get better marginally? Like, is it an Alex Caruso type, just like that? Can you bring in a Zach LaVine, a Bogdanovich, someone like that? What's it going to take?
Yeah.
My question is, it feels like Daryl, and with this coach, we've finally built the right way. And what I mean by that, man, is for so long, management and us as fans craved the big names, the stars. Brett Brown literally said, we're going star hunting. You bring in Jimmy Butler, right? Then you bring in James Harden. We've done this circle, this wheel, this rotating wheel of just star. And it's never worked out. And you watch a Miami Heat team go to the NBA Finals last year with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo as their lead pieces. Now, are those two pieces better than Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey as a duo?
I'd like to think no.
I'd like to say no, right? Obviously, they've had more playoff success, but as from a talent perspective, we say no, right? Now, what's the difference? You had guys like Max Strus and Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin and Duncan Robinson, all of these role players, undrafted free agents, everything. And you kept them together. And they were good enough role pieces to get you there. They could shoot around Jimmy and Bam. Denver, man, let's talk about the Denver Nuggets. You have Jokic, you have Jamal Murray. What is everybody else? I know people get scared of Michael Porter Jr. He can go hot. He can hit you for 40. Michael Porter Jr. is not a star. Aaron Gordon's not a star. Bruce Brown wasn't a star. This kid, Brown, however you pronounce his last name, Christian Brown. He's not a star off the bat. They don't have stars.
Yeah.
It finally feels like we're built the right way around our two scorers and stars. And it's almost like, man, use this depth to your advantage come playoff time.
No, I do agree, man. And I think, just off that conversation, shout out to Jim. Thanks for tapping in today, my man. We'll have to check out some of your content as well. I'll be sure to check out the page after we get off here. But nonetheless, looking at this team and what Daryl Morey has done, it's just funny, his reputation throughout the summer with James Harden. And then you look at what he's been able to flip this team into. And then you start to just look back at certain things that were done, right? Like him drafting guys like Jaden Springer. Like at the time, Jaden Springer, sure, it was an afterthought for us. We didn't think that Jaden Springer would become anything. But he comes in, he's now a guy that you could put him in this rotation. Like we have so many guys that Jaden Springer isn't seeing minutes most of the nights, but he is good enough to play in an NBA game. Like I know that for sure. You look at guys like Isaiah Joe, the guys like Paul Reed, Tyrese Maxey, right? You got Tyrese Maxey with the 21st pick in the draft. Maybe that was luck. Maybe it is what it is. It fell into your lap. And so like now I even look down to the Blue Coats right now, and I'm not going to get into, G League too heavy here, but Ricky Council is apparently going the fuck off in the G League right now. And this is another guy that Daryl Morey was able to bring in. So when I look across the board, man, as much as people have complained about, Daryl Morey and what he's done with this roster and what he's done throughout his career, he's done nothing but positives in my eyes, trading Al Horford and bringing back Danny Green in a draft pick. Like being able to get DeAnthony Melton for Danny Green in a draft pick. Like he's flipped so many different pieces into better pieces that, like, for example, I saw somebody complaining about Matisse Thybulle out in Portland shooting 42% from three. Who gives a fuck? He's replaced Matisse Thybulle with guys that he would not play over. Matisse Thybulle's not seeing the court over Rocco, over Batum, over Marcus Morris, over Tobias, over Kelly Oubre. So that does not matter. So like these complaints that you hear about Morey, they're just ridiculous.
It's that, and it's just people, man. It's not even about knowing basketball. It's about knowing humans and human beings.
Yeah.
Matisse Thybulle was never going to shoot or be what he is in Portland here in Philly. Even if he got the minutes over Kelly Oubre and Nico Batum, it was never happening here.
Agreed. He got his
Mentally
opportunities as
frustrated.
well.
The just obviously the fan base it was too much. No, duh, he's able to play looser and freer in Portland with less scores and less stars and a
Yeah.
fan base that couldn't give two
No
shits each and every
expectations.
night. Yeah, exactly. So people that can't realize that, man, I mean, come on. Just stop
Like,
just
Matisse
stop being a
Thybulle,
part of the conversation.
if you want to complain about a player that got let go and, you know, maybe too soon, it's Isaiah Joe. It isn't Matisse Thybulle.
Yeah.
Like,
And that was Doc,
and that was
Doc Rivers' fault.
Here.
That was Doc's fault.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that I just off what you said about, you know, the position that we're in, I just wanted to give Daryl Morey some props.
Absolutely.
Because he's very out front with it as well. If you've heard his recent interviews, he puts it out there like, we're not keeping this draft compensation. We're going for, you know, players that are going to help this team get to where we're trying to get to. And I appreciate the transparency in that case. So yeah, I think he's done very well for this team. I mean, look, Kelly Oubre, the reason I say Kelly Oubre, you can't even think about trading him, even if you got the best offer, right? And they needed Kelly Oubre. The reason I say you don't even think about it is because he's on a minimum contract. It's not even worth it to trade Kelly Oubre because we got him on a minimum contract.
I loved your
Patrick
point.
Beverly on a minimum contract.
Chemistry means something in this world, dude. It means something in this league. And you can't just keep
talked about
spinning that wheel and throwing in different pieces just because they're marginally better or above. The fit is there for the first time, maybe ever in Joel Embiid's time here in his career. The fit is there, man.
Yeah,
you don't fuck with that.
Can I tell you something about what it just popped into my mind because I said Patrick Beverly. I realized we haven't talked about him much in this episode.
Pat Bev smashing threes every night.
Bro, what the hell? And he brings just, you know, these vibes. It's like he fits in with Philadelphia. I think in LA, the Lakers, I think he just didn't fit there, right? Where he had to exit that team midway through the season. But he was on his show yesterday, man. He was talking about Nick Nurse. And basically, he was saying how he fucking loves Nick Nurse. He says that Nick Nurse is the best coach that he has ever been around in his career. He said that the guy, he doesn't skip steps compared to other coaches that he's seen around the league, whether it's practice, whether it's the way practice goes, whether it's listening to his players for input. He does not skip a step. And I thought that was monumental hearing that from Patrick Beverly, just praising Nick Nurse, because Patrick Beverly's been on several teams. He's been with several coaches.
He's been around a couple blocks.
To give that praise to Nick Nurse, it speaks to me. And, you know, it speaks
I think it shows
what Doc Rivers is, right? What Doc Rivers was, like a guy that doesn't listen to his players for input, right? Harden wanted to go to him and talk about some things.
And Doc's just simply a guy that doesn't push his players to be better necessarily. And, you talk about Pat Bev's relationship with Nick Nurse and how much he loves him as a head coach. You know, one of the things that you see on court is like Pat Bev shooting and attempting threes, and not just that, but starting to cash them like he wasn't earlier on in the year. And apparently what I've heard is that's because Nick Nurse is pushing him to shoot the ball when he's open.
It's nothing.
The thing that I love about Pat Bev, man, more so than, Kelly, we love at times you see Kelly take an unorthodox contested shot. D-Mel will take a weird shot but Pat Bev, nothing is forced. He does not take very rarely will you see a possession where Pat Bev puts up some crazy ass contested shot and you go, dude, what is that? If he shoots the ball, if he shoots the ball, he's open. It's a three, it's a floater in the lane, it's at the rim. He's open for the most part.
And
right?
I think that Pat Bev, he operates with that mindset. If he misses a shot, he's gonna get that ball back somehow for the team. And I think when you operate with that type of mindset, that gritty nature, that's just going to add an element that this team just.
What you think? What you think of his clip on the Pat Bev pod of how he got Isaiah Stewart ejected, bro?
Oh yeah. So I didn't see that clip actually.
You didn't?
No, I didn't see it.
So obviously, you know that how Stewart threw the forearm on setting the screen and Pat went flying and Isaiah got the flagrant 2. But before, what pissed him off, and they show the actual clip of Pat doing it, and Pat was like posted up at the top of the key, and Isaiah Stewart was behind him, and Pat gave him a little elbow right to the gut on one of them, right? And I think he got called for a foul. I could be wrong, but I think it was a foul call. But it was just a regular foul. So then a couple possessions later on in the game is when Stewart threw the forearm, and Pat, he's talking about how he plays the long game and everything. I'm like, yo.
He's funny, man. He's a funny
nuts,
dude,
bro.
He's a funny dude. I love what he said about Embiid yesterday too. He was talking about how Embiid just comes ready to go. Like he knows
how he impresses them more and more. Yeah.
I
love Pat Bev's
tell players, go out, get your shot, go out there, be more aggressive. He doesn't have to tell.
I love Pat Bev's impersonation of Joel too.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah. But it's all great, man. And we talked about like Joel having fun, man. I think it's from this crew, right? Like Pat talking about how hard they go in practices, and I've heard reports from beat writers that they have like dance competition, dance offs in practice and shit.
They go like 1-on-1 and shoot around sometimes. Like they just get into it. They're super competitive.
And like you see the picture last night of Joel. What was it? Joel, Maxey, Tobias, and Pat Bev playing cards on the plane, and like they were like laughing and shit. So it's like
Mo Bamba was singing "Happy Birthday." Yeah, the vibes are immaculate, man. And the one thing else that Pat Bev said, because Maxey, or not Maxey, excuse me, Roan was saying how there's rumors that Embiid is kind of mean and like very like says what's on his mind. And Pat Bev just explained like, I don't know, what happened with Ben Simmons, but
oh wow, Scotty. I thought he was messing. Wow. Yeah. Nah, I just went on Twitter. It's true. Philadelphia 76ers president of basketball operations, Daryl Morey, has agreed on a contract extension through the 2027-2028 season. Wow. That's great. So for Martian Lynch and Brett, we did not know that when Scotty brought up the Daryl Morey conversation.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm sitting there praising him up, and
I had no idea.
Interesting extension. I mean, I don't know. I see some people saying, extension worthy. We don't know yet, I guess. So maybe that's why they feel that way. I don't know. At the end of the day, what can we do about that? I don't know about it.
I like it, man. I like it.
He's done a good job since he got here. So I guess he's setting the tone for the future. And when you're building like this, maybe that's a good thing, right? When you have Joel, who's had coach after coach, he's had, guys in and out of the front office. You need some stability there. So if you're looking for stability, you may as well go with the guy that is, kind of righted this ship.
Exactly, man. Think about that. Over the last couple of weeks, not only have we talked about, the rotating wheel of players and stars and role players that have come through here in Embiid's time. He's on his third coach. He's on his third GM in those times, right? And exactly. So it's like you build the foundation up, and it starts in management, and you get that locked up, and now Daryl and Nick can put together their vision for this year and the future kind of together long term, which didn't seem like Daryl and Doc were on the same page when it came to shit like that. So
Yeah, I think now that we've had 2 minutes to digest it, I'm okay with that.
I like it. I'm on board with it. Listen, I'm not acting like I'm over the moon about it. Like, that God. But I'm not. To me, I don't really see a negative. What's the negative? He hasn't won a championship?
And it's like slapping Harden in the mouth. Like,
it really is, bro.
We ain't extending you. We're extending the GM.
Yes, sir. I love it. The last thing I'll say, we were talking about this team and having fun, man. And it just, again, it speaks to the chemistry and the continuity. Like Nico Batum, I felt like when he first got here and there was, he couldn't play for 3 games, and then he came back for 2, and then didn't play for 2 games, and then came back. And you're hearing rumors about his family, being unhappy and shit. And, we don't know that any of that's true, but something was going on personally, right? And when he first came here, he was shooting well, but he was kind of quiet, right? And you were like, oh, is he really bought into being in Philly for this, season?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you see him coming off the bench, like after a big play, like waving the towel. He's the first one out on the floor. He's taking funny pics with his teammates. Like, he's bought in. Kelly's bought in. Hell, the dudes that don't even play, like Mo Bamba, are bought in and
Yeah.
having fun with this team, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And I think
different,
that comes
man.
from I think you know what it honestly makes me feel like, because I've had bosses like this before. Like Doc Rivers is what I'm trying to say, where they'll say all the right things to your face.
Yep.
They'll tell you what you want to hear in those one-on-one meetings. And then when you get out to the forefront, you get on the court or you get on the work floor, whatever you want to call your workspace. Um, Everything changes and they go back on everything that they told you one-on-one in front of everybody else. And I think that's what Doc Rivers was. I think that's where it is. Like Nick Nurse, it's not that Nick Nurse is coming in and being this like nice pushover type of guy that just gets along and is personable with everybody. He's coming in and he's being transparent about what he wants from this team and where this team is headed and the roles for each of these guys, right? When he tells Patrick Beverly, you go out there and you shoot the three, or I can't put you out there with Joel Embiid because they're going to double team him, right? And leave you wide open. So you have to go out there. You have to not only shoot the three, you have to hit the three. So I want you to shoot 8 threes a game, start building that consistency. Like these are very clear guidelines of what he wants from each of these players. And when I hear Patrick Beverly say that Nick Nurse doesn't skip steps, that's what it speaks to for me. He doesn't skip steps. He listens to every single one of his players down to Mo Bamba and Jaden Springer. And he's going to take their input and apply it where it can be applied in his scheme, however he can. So, yeah, man, the vibes with this team right now. This month, it's great. You shouldn't lose a lot of games this month, Dylan. Like, they honestly, looking back on it, they're 4-1 in December. They should honestly end this month 12-2 or 11-3 in this month of December with the competition that they have ahead of them. The tests are still to come, right? We're not all, unicorns and rainbows here. It's not all golden and sunshiny because we still haven't gotten to the conference finals yet. But as of right now, vibe checks are immaculate right now at this point in the season, man.
Yeah.
With the way Embiid is playing and Nick Nurse.
Scotty, listen, man, I don't think it's much of a coincidence that, well, no, that wasn't a back-to-back. They lost there in a back-to-back. Oh, yeah. That they've had three 2-game losing streaks, right, over the course of this season, and 2 of which were on back-to-backs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
so it's like those losses, because like the one that sticks out to me specifically, the one against Boston, and then you had one against Minnesota, right? And those are two.
And they were
the
unhealthy at that point too. So it's like they're 16-7. In reality, they're probably more like 18-5. Like if obviously you have to play who's in front of you and on the nights you're dealt, and try to stay healthy. But they're 16-7, which is good enough already. And they weren't dealt a great hand to start the year, is what I'm trying to
start the year with the way
and
this.
to your point, man, this month, I mean, Detroit, Charlotte, the Bulls twice, right? And then you get the Bulls to open up January, Houston, Toronto. Like you have at Miami mixed in there on Christmas night. You have at Orlando, and you have home versus Minnesota. Those are the games. I mean, you have Toronto. Yeah. Toronto's middle of the pack, slightly below right now.
I say 12-2 or 11-3. That's with the idea that the Sixers would just lose to the T-Wolves or just lose to, the Magic, right? These teams with winning records. It's not to say that they can beat those teams as well, and they should.
11-1 with Kelly Oubre, 16-4 with Joel Embiid.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Let me ask you this really quick before we move to the Eagles. I know we were almost approaching.
I'm having too much fun.
I know it's been fun. That's why I wanted to start with the positives, man. But how long is Nick Nurse signed here to? If you know, I can look it up really quick. But
Nick's contract, I'm
wondering if that's the idea. Like,
let me see. I'll look it up real quick.
Morey with Nick Nurse. Maybe Nick Nurse doesn't want to be here without Morey.
Well, that's the Raptors deal. So that doesn't tell me.
Why? Yeah, why is that the one that comes up?
Here you go. 76ers, Nick Nurse. Someone show me the details. Bro, are you serious?
Brett, do you know? Put it in the comments, man.
Seriously.
Help us out here.
Like, you would think when you Google search Nick Nurse contract,
Yeah, and every article I'm clicking
doesn't say the terms.
details are being ironed out.
What
Here, let me see if maybe this one has it.
This is unbelievable. Why is it like hidden? Just gonna search it on Google or on Twitter. I look up Nick Nurse contract on Twitter, and it goes all the way back to 2018 with the Raptors.
All you
I mean,
get is the Raptors, man. That's weird.
How does this happen? Somebody in the comments,
track.
Help.
So now Nick Nurse.
I give up. I have nothing.
Yeah, they're just not giving us what the contract is.
No, literally not. How is everything on Twitter have to do with the Toronto Raptors? Like, pretty sure you look up.
Can't we know how long he's a coach? I swear it was given to us right when he signed it.
Where's Doc B? He's got to know. Martian, do you know? Parcero? What is Nick Nurse's contract? Now I can't even get off of this.
His salary and contract with the 76ers isn't known yet. Okay.
Is it still not known?
Right. Like that was months ago, man.
Yeah, look. Brett said even Sports Track doesn't have it. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. But you would think even if the number
Track doesn't have it, that's the weird
even
part.
if the numbers aren't out, like money-wise, you would think the years came out, right? Like you would think like Nick Nurse signs a 5-year deal to coach the 76ers or something. Like even if his money isn't out there. Parcero says, I know an MLS player salaries come out on a specific date. Maybe. I don't know, dude. That is weird. Not only weird, I want to know why when you search on Twitter, it does not only does it not have, the contract, it doesn't have anything to do with the Sixers anywhere. There's no Woj tweet that pops up about him being hired here. Nothing.
I'm wondering if like they have ever released this. Like,
I don't know. We are stumped here on a Friday morning, everybody.
Interesting, man. I'll spend like my whole weekend figuring that out. That's crazy, man. I don't understand that.
You're going to start DMing sources and shit?
Yeah, exactly. Like, do you know how long Nick Nurse's contract is?
Jesus Christ. What's happening?
Let's talk about the Eagles a little bit, man.
Anywho, yeah, let's get back to that team. Great. No, just kidding. Basically, guys, what we want to hear from you guys in the comments about this Eagles team is obviously we spent Wednesday. We've already gone over the Dallas loss, the San Fran and Dallas loss, how bad this team has looked over the last 2 weeks, everything. Who or what needs to change? Who steps up, for this Eagles team over the next 4 weeks to get things to right the ship, essentially? Is it a coordinator? Is it Jalen Hurts playing hero ball? Is it, A.J. Brown saying enough is enough? Hey, Scotty, remember when A.J. Brown had 5 straight consecutive 125-plus receiving yard games? Remember that? Remember when he was breaking records? Now I feel like I can't get the ball to the guy more than 5 times a night.
Yeah.
Is it DeAndre Swift? Do they finally unleash DeAndre Swift? Because it's funny. Seattle can't stop the run. I wonder how many times we attempt to run the ball this Monday night.
Swift is like somehow Swift is approaching like 1,000 yards rushing. I don't understand honestly at all how. Just based week to week, it just shows you how misguided week to week you can see things. Because I watch every single game, and I swear to God, I think he's like 6th in the NFL in rushing yards.
822 yards.
It's just
178 carries. Like, I'm sorry, there's just no way that's true. Scotty, there's just no way that's a real number. Am I tripping?
Yeah, I don't know, man. That is it's
but what I will say 178 seems like a lot more than what he's gotten. However, on the pace that the Eagles are on running the ball with him, There's 4 games left. Pace-wise, he's not even going to get to 200 carries if they continue to run the ball to him this way.
Yeah.
So with that said, less than 200 carries to your number one running back when you look around the league, and obviously DeAndre Swift's not going to carry the ball 300 times like Derrick Henry or something.
Right.
But, I mean, I feel like 210 is pretty standard in this league, and he's not on pace for that right now.
Of it, yeah. For a good running back, 210, 200. Like CMC's at 226. He's great, right? Derrick Henry's at 214. Travis Etienne's at 219. So just it begs the question if Swift gets that amount of carries, what does it look like? But no, to your point, how can the Eagles, turn the page on these last 2 games? And I'll give you my answer from the top here, man. I'll make it short and sweet for you. I think it is ultimately, partly it is coaching. I will say that, but I think ultimately it is the offensive line getting back to what they were doing at the beginning of the season before Cam Jurgens went out. Even when they do run the ball, I do get what people are saying. I think that's why I say it is partly coaching, because you do need to run the ball even when it's not effective, right? Even when it doesn't look pretty, when it doesn't look the greatest, you might only get 2 yards, you might get a yard. You still need to run the ball consistently to balance the offense and keep the defense guessing. So that part is on the coaches. But as far as the productivity, the yards per carry, and the amount of rushing yards, the success that Swift is having when he does touch the ball, I need the offensive line to step up and become the dominant force for this team that they are known to be, man. And they have been great in the passing game. They've honestly, created a lot of time for Jalen Hurts back there in the pocket. But in the running game, man, that's where I really want to see the offensive line. Like, when I ask myself, what is the difference from this season to last season? And I think you said this on a previous show, maybe either earlier this week or last week. But what is the difference between this team and last year's team? And it's the fact that I haven't seen not one of those drives where they run, 8 minutes off the clock.
But, yeah,
they run the ball down your throat. They end the game. They ice the game. I haven't seen one of those this season. Now, mind you, in the last couple games, they haven't had the opportunity. They've been playing from behind for the most part. But that's really what I would like to see. I guess it is a mixture of offensive line, even Jalen Hurts, right? Changing plays, whatever the case may be. And then all the way up into the offensive coordinator, the play callers. So I guess the offense, right? That's where I'm at with who needs to fix this thing, because I think they need to balance things out. The defense is just on the field too much for as bad as they've been.
So this is going to be a very weird time where I agree partly with you and then I disagree partly with you. And we don't tend to disagree a lot here on the show, but I'll try to lay it out here as good as I can. So I do agree with you in the fact that, what's the name? What did you just wrap up by saying? Why am I drawing a blank here?
The last part.
The offense. I just drew a complete blank. My point was, yes, I do agree with you in the fact that the offense is the side of the ball that is going to have to step up, because I probably have more belief in a Jalen Hurts-led offense than Sean Desai calling plays for this defense every snap. The defense, to me, when it gets to playing Dallas or San Fran or competing for a Super Bowl again this year, if we're so lucky to get there, man, the defense isn't winning it for you, Scotty. Even if our defense was playing better than they are right now, the offense still is going to have to outdo the opponent's offense. Yeah. And that's why I think the offense is more important than the defense. However, here's where I disagree. I'm not trying to scapegoat Brian Johnson or Nick Sirianni's offense or anything. And it is 1,000% on players when Jalen Hurts fumbles and when Smitty and AJ fumble in Cowboys territory or dropping passes, or, Cam Jurgens or Landon Dickerson miss a block in a hole and a run play gets blown up. I wholeheartedly agree with you. Execution and players have to be held accountable. But, man, I watch this offense, and it's very similar to me with Sean Desai and this defense. I hate both coordinators so much. I hate this offense's philosophy. I agree with you. They're not very good at running the ball lately. They're not.
Yeah.
I
We
don't
don't
know
see
that
it
it's so
often
much the
enough
offensive
to
line,
know.
and here's why. At times, are they protecting Jalen and giving Jalen time? Sure, yeah. Jalen is being blitzed this year more so than he ever has in his career. The blitzes are getting home more and more. Jalen's numbers passing against the blitz are not there, are not successful this year. And Liam Jenkins, the leader over at PSN, shout out to him. He did a great breakdown video on the Eagles wide receiver route concepts. And he
Yeah.
was talking about the mixture of knowing a blitz is coming and having these receivers running long, delayed breaks and routes down the field where there's just no time to get the ball to them or no time for them to create separation or space. So to me, the passing struggles and the bad route concepts allowing teams to stack up and blitz is partially why the running game and the offensive line is struggling. Because think about our running game. It feeds off the pass. It's RPOs. It's read options. It's not turn around and hand the ball to DeAndre Swift. It's an option to DeAndre Swift, and it's long developing. So when a team is bringing pressure, bringing a blitz, that slow delayed handoff is getting blown up, man. Do you know what I'm trying to like?
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying.
I just want them to put their foot in the ground, line them up under center, turn and hand the ball, do something.
That's what I was laughing at. I don't know what this pertains to, but fine. It's good to know. Dwayne Howard's a bisexual.
I saw it on Twitter before. I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen like rumors and stuff. I don't know. It just doesn't
Not my
like,
business.
interest me. But yeah, I think what worries me, Dylan, about that conversation, and I said to you, I think the San Fran game was more coaching. I think the Dallas game was more players, right?
Sure.
And
the
I think
fumbles, the
overall,
drops.
the weaknesses overall throughout the season are a mixture of both. The biggest worry for me that is coming out of this, man, is that this is a Sirianni issue on offense.
Sure.
That's what my worry is, because
If it's
this
his
looks
offense,
eerily similar to 2020, his first season with Jalen Hurts and making the playoffs with that late run, right, where he gave up play calling. But it looks very similar to that. And then the worry goes to a further extent, and it begs the question, is this beyond Sirianni? Is this all the way up through the organization and the organizational philosophy of Eagles offense and the way it's supposed to be run, and Eagles defense and the way it's supposed to be run? And the reason I say that is because I can already see us getting to a point with Nick Sirianni, to the point this week where people were talking about, if the Eagles, do this or that towards the end of the season, don't win a Super Bowl, do you move on from Nick Sirianni? Do you fire him, right? Because of his, phased out offensive scheme. I don't know what you want to call it, but they're not fun. They're not great to look at, and it's not great to watch sometimes when you're playing great defenses. This is the same things we were saying about Doug Peterson after he won a Super Bowl and was basically pushed out of this city. And that's what worries me. That's what worries me, is that we're getting to that point with Sirianni. And, to be fair, at the time with Doug Peterson, sure, I guess we could say it felt right. We're happy with Sirianni and where he's taken us the last few years. But was it the right time to move on from your Super Bowl winning head coach? Like, this isn't the conversation for right now, right? It's not something that I want to discuss, but it is just where I feel this conversation is leading to with Nick Sirianni. And so, to that point, that is my biggest worry. It's my biggest worry, is that this is like a philosophical problem with the Philadelphia Eagles from the top down.
Yeah.
And that Brian Johnson, maybe he just doesn't get much say in what, goes down. Maybe he calls the plays.
I agree.
I think Sirianni is designing them.
I think Brian Johnson is an inexperienced play caller who is being dealt a bad hand. I've said that to you before. If Nick has a role in this offense, if it's his offense, we said before, what were they not doing in 2021? Running the ball. Looks pretty similar, right? Except you just have a little bit more talent to cover it up, right? The line's a little healthier. AJ Brown's here, right? Hurts is better than his rookie year. So you have more talent to cover up those issues at times. But I do agree, and that's where the issue comes in, where I love Nick Sirianni, the head coach. He's a player's coach. He's a leader of men. He's a good delegator. He listens. He can't be involved in an NFL offense. I think it's evident. And I remember his first year, he called it, it was so hard for him to give up play calling duties because it's his baby. He loves to do it. I don't give one single fuck what you love to do, Nick. Your job is to win games. It's to put guys in the best positions to win games, to lead this team to a Super Bowl. And your offense is hindering that. It's pushing us backwards. So I do agree. While Brian Johnson does catch a lot of heat that maybe should be directed more towards Sirianni, we just don't have all the answers. We don't know that it is Sirianni's offense. It's just been slightly reported. So I do think that's got to get figured out. And at the end of the day, if you do move on from Brian Johnson at the end of the year, which I am completely 1,000% fine with, does Jeffrey have to step in? Does Howie have to step in replacing the coordinator? Because if it's Nick's job to bring in his staff, is Nick bringing in a staff where he can continue to be a part of the offense? Or does Jeffrey and Howie go, this is your OC, it's his offense, you are our head coach.
I think that's the point that it got to with Doug Peterson, where they said, no, we're not having Press Taylor as our coordinator.
Right.
We'll pick one for you, right? Sure. We'll bring in a Vic Fangio for the defense, right? You don't want Jim Schwartz anymore, whatever the case may be. It's like, no, Doug Peterson's like, no, I'll take my talents elsewhere and decide my own coaching staff. Like, once you take those responsibilities.
It's just so tough, man. Because Nick and Jalen are what, like 30-4 in their last 34 regular season games together. It's like, it's so tough to take 2 losses, and now we're spiraling with these conversations because we don't know that that's the end game. It's just, it's frustrating to watch if this is Nick's
hand.
I
do think when you're talking about Brian Johnson and even Sean Desai, like, there is a balance. And I'm not saying that you're wrong, that you would be fine with them getting fired. Like, we'll see how this season plays out. If these issues are showing in the playoffs, and we'll have to have the conversation then. But is it not possible for Brian Johnson to gather a better feeling for the game? You know what I mean? Like, is it not possible for him to develop into a better offensive coordinator? Same with Sean Desai, learning season to season, becoming better at your job, just like the players do. It's kind of like what we just talked about.
I agree to an extent.
Moving coordinators in and out with Jalen, where he just doesn't get the same coordinator.
That is true. That is 1,000% true. However, I will say, I don't have time for guys to be on a learning curve. I'm trying to win a Super Bowl, and I don't have time for Sean Desai and Brian Johnson to grow into coordinators. I need professional coordinators. I know that sounds pushy.
I don't know. It sounds eerily similar to where we were with the Sixers like 3 years or 2 years ago, even, right? Like, where we don't have time, but then we end up 3 years later in the same place. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, where we didn't allow.
But
in
this instance, 3 years from now, you ain't got Jason Kelce. You probably don't have Lane. You might not have Lane Johnson at that point. You don't, like, I don't know. It's an interesting conversation, man. And there
is a balance to it.
So to answer your question, I think the offense needs to step up. I think that Jalen needs to step up because he needs to do above and beyond now, right? Like, it's still your offense. Yeah, maybe you're being hindered by play calling, but you still have to do extra now. And to answer your question, Nick has to step up. Nick has to put that ego aside and figure things out with this play caller and everything. The last thing I'll say about the play calling and the discussion on if it's Sirianni's offense or if it's Brian Johnson's fault, the only thing that frustrates me, man, is it's not on Nick when his offense, so to speak, moves them down the field so fluently, and then Brian Johnson changes his rhythm of play calling inside the 15 and we stall out. Because I think that's clear as day that happens. Brian Johnson calls a beautiful set of plays inside the 20s, gets inside the 15, and goes QB draw, screen, pass to the end zone. Like, just asinine. So that's not on Nick's offense. That's the play caller not having a feel. It's the play caller not having a feel. Like, even if Nick's run plays aren't, what we want the run plays to look like, it's not on Nick. It's on Brian Johnson when he throws the ball the first 7 plays of the game and ignores the run. But I do agree. If he's dealt a hand where
no motion on offense, no slant routes, it's all deep goes.
Yep.
Like, I don't
know. I don't know.
Kind of,
it's a sticky situation.
Rocky situation for sure.
And
you
it
does
have
to hope that they right the ship. That's what has to happen. They need to get it right.
They're 10-3 and control their own destiny in the NFC East. And it's like, man, we have these issues.
I need a blowout Monday, man. I need them to blow the Seahawks out.
I think that's good. Listen, I still stand by what I said Wednesday about, nothing can really change my outlook until the playoffs. Like, okay, who cares if they beat the shit out of Tommy DeVito twice in the Cardinals? But I will say I can at least heal a little quicker if they right their wrongs in Seattle on Monday night. If they do score 31 in Seattle and the offense is moving and I'm seeing changes to their philosophy, then I can take a breath and go, okay, this is a positive moving forward. But if they beat Seattle 20-17, 21-20, and the offense is stalling, man, I'm going to be sitting here like, cool, you won.
Yeah.
But what the fuck?
Yeah.
What are we going to do against San Fran again?
Apparently there's been reports that, Jalen Hurts has been hosting players-only meetings this week. Brandon Graham's hosted some players-only meetings this week to talk about turnovers and just the energy that they're bringing into each game. So you just have to hope that the leaders can step up amongst this group of guys that went to the Super Bowl last year. There's a lot of guys that hung over from that Super Bowl, right?
Right, that have won a Super Bowl.
So you have all the guys in-house that can get you out of this little hole. Like, it's about to say a hole. It's not a hole, man. We're not the Giants 5-8. Like, we're 10-3, dog. Like, we are literally one Cowboys loss this weekend from back in the lead for NFC East, right? So, it is funny the way the conversation has gone this week and the last 2 weeks. It rightfully so. They're gonna get held accountable. They're gonna be put under the microscope and they're gonna be judged and critiqued. That's the way it is. But they are still in a great spot. And there's 31 other teams, probably 30, maybe not San Fran, that would trade the Philadelphia Eagles places right now to be where they are as far as standings and playoff pictures. So
I agree.
It's not all bad, man. We'll be back Monday. Unfortunately, we have a whole fucking weekend.
You get Shaq Leonard another week more acclimated, right? You get a little healthier around the edges. We'll see. But just in terms of coordinators, and it's funny, it's a good thing this was a what can we move in a positive direction instead of a negative direction, because Sean Desai escaped all conversation today, and he's lucky. He's lucky because it's an atrocity, and it makes you think, man, to wrap up the show here. I know Marshawn Lynch always, did Kevin Byard play? Like the Shaq Leonard show? My problem with that, is Sean Desai is he the player killer? Like, is he the talent squasher? Is he just not putting, like Shane Half did a great breakdown that's catching a lot of attention of Sean Desai probably dealing with less talent than, than Gannon had, right? Slightly, right? Yeah. Carter, Hargrave, Byard, CGJ. I mean, I think the talent's pretty close all around. Linebacker's a lot better, obviously, last year than this year. But he's talking about Sean Desai having less talent, and instead of helping and filling these issues or holes, he's expanding these issues with less talent on the field. And he did a great breakdown of film and showing it, man. And it's like, that's the question. We sit here and we trade for Kevin Byard and all pro safety. And it's like, all right, he's going to help the safety room. And he doesn't necessarily flash at all, except for an interception against Kansas City. And we sit here and we rip him. But is he even being used to any sort of his strength as a safety in this league?
Yeah, it's actually funny, man. I saw this this tweet earlier today, And like Marshawn Lynch is saying here, he has given up the least amount of passing TDs in his time since he's been here. Now, mind you, came in about halfway through the season, so that speaks for it. But
Right.
he has 2 passing touchdowns given up, and I think he ties Slay for the league, or not the league, but the lead for the Eagles in that category as far as having the least amount given up. So him and Slay have been, highly criticized, yet kind of productive in a sense. I know Slay's annoying with his
Right.
podcast and shit. That's really the only chip I have with
I
him
just
is that it's him
yeah.
opening his mouth, but his play on the field
Exactly,
has
because
been
even if
pretty
you're
good.
not one of the main issues or an issue at all,
Yeah,
you're still a leader of a
yeah,
unit that's being
yeah.
butchered.
And that's
So
where I wonder, man. Like maybe he's just maybe he's not. I don't know how he is in the locker room. Maybe he keeps things light. Maybe that's why he's a captain because he
right,
makes things funny and can turn a negative moment into a positive one. Maybe he's that type of guy, but he just doesn't seem like a leader. He seems like a really, really good player, just not a really good leader. And
yeah,
anytime you start these conversations after the game with me and what I did, and it's not about what
right.
you did
Going right to
wrong.
your phone and liking
Yeah,
tweets about Darius Slay's numbers and coverage.
like if he
No
comes out and
tweets about
says,
no tweets about the Eagles as a team in his
yeah.
likes,
And
just
if he
about
comes out
Darius
and
Slay.
says, I should have caught that interception, that one dropped interception he had
Mhm.
in that game against the Cowboys. I should have caught that. That was my biggest mistake in this game. I'm a little disappointed in that, but overall, I think I held up pretty nicely. Even though the defense, we need to do better as a unit. Like it's so simple. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to go into this monologue about how great you played against the Cowboys while losing by 20. Like it's just weird, but
It is, man.
maybe that's a conversation for another day, man.
It is. It's it's gonna be a bumpy road back to positive town for the Eagles right now, man,
Absolutely.
where the Sixers sit mayor. All right. And I never thought that would be the case going
We
back
go in
2,
a
3 months
cycle, man.
ago.
We go in
Yeah.
a cycle
It is
because
sick.
then
You
when
wanna
the
yeah,
Phillies
you
get
want like
back,
we
the
talked about this
Phillies
the
will
other
be
day
in
with March and Lynch. We're sick. It's
that mayor's
it's an
seat.
illness, honestly. But hey, what can I say? I love the Sixers team.
Oh
Fucking sue
man.
me. All
Are the
right.
Sixers covering that 15.5-point spread tonight, man?
Man, yeah. Yeah. I'm not laying it
They
because
are. They're at
16 is
home.
just too much for me to put money on.
Not doing it
Um,
either, but funny thought.
but at home against that team, like forget like the conversation of like, man, if the Sixers somehow lost to the 21 straight L Pistons, it's not about losing. It's do the Sixers win by 32? Like that's the
Yeah. Can
conversation.
we get Embiid some more rest?
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's
Teams
like
like
it's
this are so hard to analyze, bro, when it comes to betting because it's like, I was going to lay Embiid points. I think they were 33.5, 34.5 before Wednesday night's game. And then I sat back and said, well, what happens when he doesn't even play a quarter and a half? So I'm like, no.
yeah,
Except
yeah.
I didn't take into fucking account that the dude was going to have 30 at halftime. All right? So you never know. Now tonight I'll lay his points.
Yeah.
And he'll score like 27 and not play the last quarter, and it won't matter. And oh
Yeah.
man,
And it's funny, you can't 25 would be that safe spot that he can hit each and every time before third quarter, but it's like minus 1,000 on the books.
it's ridiculous.
25
Scotty, fine. This is the point. All right, we started the show with it. We'll end the show with it. How we take Embiid for granted and what he does on a nightly basis. Find me another player on any sports book that if you went to their alt points and went 25 plus, that their odds are as low as Joel Embiid's or even close. You want to talk Jokic? I mean, the dude only averages 27 a night, so 25 plus is probably pretty good for him. Kawhi, apparently 28 for Kawhi is a fucking night out in Vegas, right? LeBron, like, I would go through it and find me a guy for 25 plus that is like minus 1,500 like Joel Embiid's 25 pluses. It's utterly insane, dude. Insane. Bro,
Yeah.
if Maxey gets us 25, we're like, all right. Like, obviously now he's averaging more, but like when Maxey was getting 25, it was like, damn, like that's really good.
Great
And
game.
Embiid would be like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. It is crazy,
It's
man.
wild.
It is crazy. But he's on another level right now. It's really the rebounding, man. That's
You know what level that is?
really, really giving me.
You know what level that is that he's on?
What's that?
The MVP level. I mean, let's just call it what the fuck it is. All right, excuse my language, but
he's leading the ladder.
I'll say this: if the season was to end today, or if things continue to play out the way they are, and numbers stay pretty similar, and he doesn't win MVP, I mean, I don't even know what I'll say.
I could see
I don't even know what I'll say.
Like Luka, just like for like new.
I don't care. He's
like,
better.
Player.
Sure, but like, how can a dude win MVP, put up better numbers in less minutes played, have a top 3 seed in his conference, and have a bigger role than he did last year, and he's not MVP? I mean, come on. Marshall Lynch says, is it a finals MVP level?
That's the big question.
That is TBD. That is obviously the more important question. I will say Joel Embiid himself is playing like he can lead this team to an NBA Finals MVP. It's what are we going to get from the team as a whole come that time? That is the question.
Facts.
All right.
That down, Marshawn Lynch? You laying that bet down?
I honestly, Scotty, I might do it. I might, for my sanity, right? Here's what I'm going to do. Because I told you I was going to do it with the Cowboys, and I didn't at the last minute like an idiot. And I took Eagles money line, okay? I'm betting the Seahawks on Monday night. But I don't care. I don't care right now because either they get their ass back on track and I feel good about the Eagles, or they lose again, but I get paid. That's what I'm doing. I might do it for the rest of the season. I might bet on Tommy Cutlets on Christmas Day.
Hey, good luck, man. I don't even care if Gino's playing. We're not losing to the Seahawks.
I hope so.
See how the tune changes.
I sure hope so.
We'll
we said this was going to be a 40-minute show. We are at an hour and 22 minutes. It never seems to go quick, especially with you guys in the chat. So if you are in the chat right now, if you're watching live, make sure to support by smashing that subscribe button. It's the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here on the screen with your host. Don't forget, also, we have 2 other DSM YouTube channels. For all your NFL content, make sure to subscribe to the Turf Talk channel. For all your NBA content, make sure to check out the Scotty Talks NBA YouTube channel. This is your home for all things Philly sports here on the Philadelphia channel. For myself, for Scotty, and DSM, have a great rest of your weekend.